Hi everyone, welcome back to Poetology. Today's video is about writing as a way of healing, and especially when it comes to poetry, how to use poetry to talk about difficult mental experiences and how to use it as a way of keeping yourself well and of processing and managing what you have experienced in your life. And I have a lot of books to talk about this. The first one is a book I really loved when I first found it, Poetry as Survival by Gregory. It starts with a really excellent introduction and first chapter that I think I need to reread very soon. And it also analyzes other poets and how they used their writing to write about difficult experiences. So here, poetry is not just done as an exercise, it's not just done to try and achieve something that is of cultural or aesthetic value, but it's also used as a transformational tool to survive what happens to us in life. The blurb says, Gregory Orr explores how writing, reading, and listening to lyric poetry have enabled people in all cultures and throughout history to confront, survive, and transcend suffering. Orr reveals lyric poetry's power as a tool for healing and its capacity to help us find safety and comfort in a threatening world. And Orr especially talks about the personal lyric here, writing with I. It really spoke to me because this is not wishy-washy, it's not wishful, it's not superficial. It really goes deep and sees how we can write about horrible events that happen to us and how to use that as a transformative tool. The second book here is called Poetic Medicine by John Fox, The Healing Art of Poem Making. It contains a lot of exercises, so it can give you inspiration when you're not sure what to write or where to start by telling you how you can approach things that have happened to you and use it in a positive way. It contains chapters that are titled Poetic Tools for Your Healing Journey or Poems of Witness in a Conflicted World. So really how to use your poetic practice to tackle difficult things that are happening to you or to the world. And as I said, I use it more for exercises and ideas than I do for the background. I would say that Gregory Orr's book is a lot better to give you a thorough introduction, and this is better to give you some ideas of how you might go about it if you're feeling a little stuck. Now, the next one is quite different. It's Poets on Prozac, Mental Illness Treatment and the Creative Process, edited by Richard M. Berlin. This is a collection of essays by many different poets, most of them are American. They talk about their experience with mental health, often with depression, and how this relates to the way they write. So sometimes it prevented them from writing, sometimes it makes its way into their writing. There are lots of different experiences. I think there were a few excellent essays in here, and others didn't speak to me as much. And the blurb reads, in brilliantly illuminating the interplay between creativity and mental illness, Richard Berlin's fascinating books shows poets in the process of becoming healers, not only of themselves, but also of others, and even of society at large. Most of them talk about depression, but some also, if I remember well, talk about bipolar, and some have eating disorders and, other mental health conditions that they write about in their essays. So I recommend this one if you want to look at how other poets deal with these issues. Here is a book I mentioned in the last video. It's Writing as a Way of Healing by Louise DeSalvo. This book is not written for poets, it's written for memoir writers. So it really focuses on writing a memoir, but that is easily applicable to your poetry if you are a poet and you write about experiences that you've been through. It doesn't mean that you write poetry as a memoir necessarily, but that you use experiences that you've gone through as the primary material. And if you're writing about mental health and difficulties around mental health, you might need some support to know how to approach it and how best to do it, and to take care of yourself as you are writing. So this book is excellent for this aspect. Now, I decided to include 3 poetry collections that provide good examples of how others have written about mental health. The first one is The Ward by Louisa Campbell. And Louisa Campbell has knowledge of mental health hospitals, both as a mental health nurse and as a psychiatric patient. So she knows both sides of what it's like to be in a psychiatric hospital. And in this collection, she writes about some of the patients there. So there are lots of characters being described, but also places, the night. It represents a range of voices from people who are not usually placed in the center of writing, so people with catatonia, schizophrenia, depression, paranoia, mania, anorexia, and alcoholism, for example, are included, as well as the nurses who take care of them. I have seen this sort of writing before, but not in poetry. There are many memoirs and some fiction that are written about psychiatric institutions and patients' experiences in them, but there is not a lot of poetry as far as I'm aware. If you know other collections that do a similar thing, I would be very happy to hear about it in the comments. Then here is Pascal Petit, Mama Amazonica. And in this collection, Pascal talks about her mother, who suffered from quite severe mental health issues throughout her life. She talks about her mother as the Amazon forest. And so she uses animals and flora and landscapes to approach very difficult elements of her relationship with her mother. It really transforms her relationship to her mother by setting it through a different lens every time. The blurb says, Mama Amazonica is set in a psychiatric ward and in the Amazon rainforest, an asylum for animals on the brink of extinction. It reveals the story of Pascal Petit's mentally ill mother and the consequence of abuse. If you don't know Pascal Petit, her writing is absolutely beautiful, and this is how it starts. Mama Amazonica. Picture my mother as a baby, afloat on a water lily leaf, a name tag round her wrist, Victoria Amazonica. There are rapids ahead, the doctors call mania. For now, all is quiet. She's on a deep sleep cure. A sloth clings to the cecropia tree, a jaguar sniffs the bank. My mother on her green raft, its web of ribs, its underside of spines. I'll sing her a lullaby, tell her how her quilted crib has been known to support a carefully balanced adult. My newborn mama, washed clean by the drugs, a caiman basking beside her. This may be my favorite book of hers, but honestly you can pick up any book by Pascal Petit and be blown away. And the third collection I picked is Autopsy by Donte Collins. I have also mentioned it in previous videos. This talks about grief, the grief of losing their mother and all the contradictory emotions that come with it, and how they give form, give shape to those experiences through poetry. I also wanted to include 2 magazines, 2 poetry journals that talk about health and sickness, mostly physical but also mental in some situations. The first one is Ache magazine. I don't have the magazine itself, I have Cusp, which is a short anthology of feminist stories, essays, and poetry exploring bodies, myth, and magic. And Ache magazine is a literary and arts magazine that attempts to create an opportunity for women, trans, and non-binary people to articulate, explore, and question their experiences of illness, health, and pain. If you want to read more contemporary writers writing about illness, go have a look at Ache magazine. I will link it down below. And here is a copy of Sick magazine. Sick is an independent, thoughtful magazine by chronically ill and disabled people. It is committed to elevating the voices of sick and disabled people by publishing essays, features, poetry, visual arts, interviews, and more to increase representation of sick and disabled people in publishing and challenge stereotypes. This magazine contains essays, short stories, art. It publishes fairly unusual pieces as well. Something I also really love is at the end there is a sick recommends section with a ton of recommendations for memoir, essays, fiction, anthology, poetry, and podcasts. So it offers many resources for people who want to know more about disability and writing. This is it for today's video. I hope it inspires you to start thinking about writing for health or writing about illness, and that it leads you to interesting places. If there is any other book that this makes you think of, that you think I could have mentioned or should read, then please mention it in the comments below. Let me know if you liked this video, and please subscribe if you enjoy this channel. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you very soon. Bye.